Okay, so this is part 4 in my series of tutorials for absolute beginners on the piano. As I've said previously, the series is running throughout 2017 and it's designed for those of you guys who are completely new to the piano. If you've just found this tutorial randomly, you might like to look at the playlist I've put together, which contains all of the current tutorials and which I'm adding to as I make them. Don't forget also to subscribe to my channel using the little red subscribe button you can see down in the bottom right hand corner of the screen here. We're going to be doing some exciting stuff in today's episode, including using the left hand for the first time, thinking a bit more about managing our fingers and learning a scale. First of all though, let's recap the material we've covered so far. So in the first couple of lessons in this series, we learned what all the white notes are on the piano keyboard. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, with that pattern repeating all the way up and down the keyboard. If you're still at the stage where you're having to think about which note is which, you really need to push past that now and make sure you're at the point where it just comes naturally to say, yeah, that's a G or that's a D or whatever, where it is 100% automatic to know the names of the white note. We also learned about numbering our fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right hand, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left hand. Then we moved on to looking at how we represent notes on the piano keyboard using the staff or stave, call it what you like. We figured out how to find middle C and saw how different spaces and lines of the treble stave represent different notes. E, G, B, D, F, every green bus drives fast for the lines, and F, A, C, E, face for the spaces. We saw that we can go above or below the treble stave using ledger lines. And in the previous tutorial we got around to thinking about beat as represented by time signature, the numbers that follow the clef right at the start of a piece of music, and how we represent rhythm by using notes of different lengths like the crotchet or quarter note and the minim or half note. We also started to get our heads around the idea that the musical traditions of different countries have different names for these things, which can be a little bit awkward until you get used to them. But so far we've only been looking at the right hand and mostly focusing on the part of the keyboard up from middle C. We know we can represent notes below middle C using ledger lines, but we can't go far down before we start, we're having to start using loads and loads of ledger lines, which will be very unwieldy and hard to read. But it's down here that we get some of the kind of loveliest sounds that the piano can make, these really sort of fruity, deep bass sounds. Yeah, and that's also where our left hand spends most of its time. So how do we represent music that's happening down here? Easy. We use a different type of stave and a different type of clef, the bass clef. Okay, so here drawn out on my super professional whiteboard is a bass stave. As you can see at the start it doesn't have a treble clef like the treble stave does, rather it has a bass clef which looks like this. Just like the treble stave though, it has 5 lines and 4 spaces, but they refer to different notes in a different place on the piano keyboard. Let's orientate ourselves around middle C. Now, on the treble stave, middle C hung off the bottom of the stave on the first ledger line down here, okay? But on the bass stave, it's on the first ledger line above the stave. Okay, so that note there in the bass is middle C. Now working downwards it works exactly like the treble stave in terms of lines and spaces. So this space here is a B and then this top line is A, and that's the A below middle C just here. Then we've got G in the space. Okay, it's a bit muddy and unclear, but that's G. Then we've got F on the line. Okay, then E in the space. Then D on the line, and as you can see we're working down the white notes of the piano keyboard, so that D on the line is that D there, there's middle C for us. Then in the next space down is C, okay, so we've come down an octave from middle C. Then this line is B, and then this space is A, and this line is G, and as with a treble stave we can go down and down and down to F, then a ledger line to E, then D, then another ledger line to C, and so on and so forth. Something you might notice now, if we look at the bottom line there, we've got that G, which is in the second octave below middle C, and if we went to the top line of the treble stave, we would get to that F, and that's without using ledger lines. So without using ledger lines, just using the two staves, we now kind of cover the heart of the piano keyboard. The notes that we play most often, we've now got covered off. Okay, as with the treble stave, there are a couple of kind of slightly old school mnemonics that you can use for learning those lines and spaces. From the lines from the bottom to top are good boys deserve fine apples. G, B, D, F, A. And remember that A is the A immediately below middle C, and that G is this one down here. Okay, and the spaces A, C, E, and my little really horrible grufty squashed up G there. Let me try and make that clearer. A, C, E, G. All cows eat grass. Yeah, pretty rock and roll these things, but quite easy to remember. All cows eat grass for the spaces A, C, E, G, and good boys deserve fine apples. G, B, D, F, A for the lines. Okay, so your first job is to learn those lines and spaces just like you did for the treble stave. With that in mind, as I say, if you look at this week's PDF using the link below the video, you'll find that the first part of it contains an exercise to learn the notes of the bass stave. As in the exercise we used to learn the notes of the treble stave, it's just a bunch of random notes, each one with a finger indication. Now, using your left hand and being sure to use the right finger each time, play each note, naming it as you go. Remember that the fingers on the left hand, as on the right hand, go outwards from the thumb. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it's kind of a mirror image of the right hand. Blast away at that exercise until you're, and spend your own time finding and naming the notes on the bass clef, until you're really super confident that you have those bass stave notes down. As I've said before, although it's a little bit of a grind, it's massively important that you get this basic knowledge learned to a really instinctive level. It makes things much, much easier later on, because when we start to deal with more complicated concepts, you don't want to be kind of, gawping at the bass stave trying to work out which note is which. Just before we get on to the next stage of this tutorial, just a quick reminder to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you're subscribed, you'll get regular updates about new material, including new lessons in this series and all the other types of piano tutorial that I produce. Just hit that red subscribe button that you can see in the bottom right hand corner of the screen. It won't take you all away from the video, you won't lose your place, and it will just take a couple of seconds. You can also check out my Facebook page, Bill Hilton's Piano Books and Tutorials, and my Twitter feed, twitter.com/BillHilton. I've put links for those underneath the video. Okay, having learned a little bit about what goes on in the left hand, I want to pop back to the right hand so we can do something really useful, which is learn our first scale, the scale of C major. Now, you'll often hear pianists and other musicians moaning about scales and having to practice them, but they're really essential. Nothing quite sorts the good piano players from the bad ones like willingness to practice scales. Working on your scales on the piano helps you physically because it keeps your fingers loose and limber, it warms you up, it protects you from injury, it develops fine muscle control, and it helps you with your touch and your expression, but it also helps you mentally in understanding music theory. All tonal music is built out of scales. Melody is built out of scales. Yeah, chords are built out of scales. Okay, these things really are at the heart of music. So let's have a look again at C major in the right hand. Here it is, just a single octave. Watch what I do. Let's do that again really slowly. If I wanted, I could play more than one octave using the same pattern. But for now, we'll just stick to the single octave. Let's name the notes as we play. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And down, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. Notice that I didn't repeat the note at the top of the scale. So I didn't do this, instead I went up and straight off the C and back down again. Next, and this is really important, let's name the fingers. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. Did you see what I did there each time I reached the crossover point between the E and the F? Going up the scale, I put my thumb under my third finger, like that, and coming down, I put my third finger over my thumb. Going up, thumb under, coming down, third over. Why do I bother doing that? Why didn't I just carry on until I ran out of fingers, then jumped? It's because I was trying to play smoothly and also accurately. This is a really important concept on the piano. So important that there's actually a special name for it, legato. Yeah, we don't always play legato smoothly, and sometimes we go out of our way to avoid legato playing, to do the exact, we try to do the exact opposite. But a great deal of piano music demands that smooth legato sound, which means organising our fingers well to play all the notes we have to play without too much jumping. Yeah, that also helps us to be accurate. It means we don't miss notes, jump up, blah blah, oh now I need to move my hand, okay? So we're working on evenness and smoothness and accuracy. And that means very often moving our fingers over and under one another. Yeah, and this is yet another thing actually that scales help us to practice. So, first things first, practice this C major right hand scale. You'll find it written out with fingers marked in, all in the PDF, which again you can download using the link in the description field below this video. The aim is to be as smooth and even as possible, giving each note equal weight. In particular, and this is quite hard, try to avoid any kind of audible break or unevenness when you have fingers going over or under each other. Yeah, so for example, going up the C major scale, when your thumb goes under your third from the E to the F, it's really easy to land a bit hard on your thumb and create unevenness. Try as hard as you can to eliminate that. Yeah, it's not easy, and it's not something that you'll fully eliminate ever. Really, it's a really very good pianist who can play a scale completely evenly. Yeah, all the time, but do the best you can. That all might seem a bit pointless at first, but it is, as I say, I can't stress this enough, it is really, really important. Nailing this kind of thing, getting your scales good, is what makes the difference between a slick, fluent, musical piano player and one who is kind of jumpy and jolty and unmusical. Now we can play the C major scale in the left hand too. Let's start on the C below middle C, okay? Up and down, just one octave. Let's name the notes again. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. And the fingers, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just compare that to the right hand scale and you'll see that it's fingered slightly differently. We're doing third over thumb on the way up and thumb under third on the way down, which is the other way round from the right hand. And the switch happens between the G and the A rather than between the F and the E and the F as it does in the right hand. That's basically because our left hand, as I say, is a mirror image of our right. Don't worry too much about the precise reasons for now. Just get to grips with this scale. Let's have another look at it. Okay, again you'll find it written out with the fingers marked in the PDF. Yeah, so as you practice your right hand scale, practice your left hand scale as well. Now if you're feeling really brave and once you've got those to a pretty good standard, have a shot at doing this. C major up and down, one octave, both hands together. You can do it like that, which is what we call similar motion because both hands are moving in the same direction, or like this, which is what we call contrary motion. Okay, starting with your two thumbs both on middle C. Before you try, make sure, as I say, that you've really nailed the hands separately. Then start slowly and see how well you can do. Again, I know you're probably really stretching yourself here already, but do everything you can to keep it smooth and even. Yeah. Now, for a kind of super duper double alpha plus 5-star kind of ninja boss level, you can even try to vary the dynamics. That is the louds and softs. Start soft and get loud as you go out, and quieter again as you get back. Both hands. Or vice versa. Start loud and get quieter and louder again as you go down. Remember, as I said, you'll find left and right hand scales all written out with all the fingering in the accompanying PDF. Do double check that you're getting those fingers right, and practice right hand and left hand separately before you even think about trying to put them together. So that's about it for lesson 4 in my Piano for Beginners series. I know we've been doing a bunch of really quite technical stuff in this tutorial, but it's important. Work really hard at it, nail it down, get it so it's automatic, and then you make the next stage of the journey so much easier. In the next lesson, we're going to be working on our first piece of piano music with 2 hands together. Whoa, hooray. At last. I'll see you then.